Hey, welcome to week one of your health and performance game plan. So in this week, we're looking at your foundations of health and assessment. Here we want to establish baselines and understand your current health to help you build those personalized longevity game plan. So what we're looking at doing here is setting up the stage for our health. What we're going to do this week, we're assessing your current state of health. Think of this as your trial map compass for your long-term health. It helps you to navigate challenges, adjust your course when needed, and to make sure you're not just moving, but you're moving in the right direction. So when you track your health or your health metrics, you can fine-tune your approach and make real progress. That's why we plan in decades but act in moments. So using the weekly game plan, you've already identified your beliefs around who you are when you're performing at your best. But before you can bridge the gap from where you are now and where you want to be, you need to be aware of your starting point. That begins with an honest health audit, a self-examination of your current habits, strengths, and areas that need work. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. So your health is an ongoing process. It's not just a destination. So the clearer you are about where you stand today, the easier it is to take meaningful steps forward. Here we dive into the self-assessments that you'll use over the next 10 weeks to help you better understand and to get the best out of your system. But before we go into the physical metrics, we need to understand how much stress your system is actually carrying. So the Perceived Stress Scale, or PSS, is a self-assessment that measures how overwhelmed or in control or under pressure you've felt in the last month. It's not about measuring external stress, it's actually about measuring your perception of stress. And that's really important to understand the difference between the two. Because two people can be in the same environment with the same workload, but experience completely different levels of stress. So this is where performance is won or lost, how you interpret and carry pressure. So the Perceived Stress Scale gives you the baseline of your current stress load and how your nervous system is responding to your environment. It helps you to understand and identify where you're operating in control, under managed pressure, or are you drifting into overload. So this becomes your internal reference point. When you track this over time, you start to see patterns around stress, recovery, performance, and your physical metrics like heart rate variability and resting heart rate. So your action step here is to complete the Perceived Stress Scale and record your score. This gives you a clear starting point for your mental, your emotional load, not just your physical health. Now then we move into the longevity assessment and tracking sheet. This is your dashboard. Now that you've completed your health audit and measured your Perceived Stress Scale, you need a way to capture and track everything in one place. So this is where the longevity assessment and tracking sheet comes into play. This is your dashboard. It holds your baseline, it tracks your key metrics, and it shows you how your system is responding over time. Instead of guessing, you're now working off real data, heart metrics, fitness, stress, and bloods, all in one place. So it builds an awareness, it removes the guesswork, and it keeps you on point. So your action step is simple. Start your tracking sheet and record your baseline for the next week. Now this becomes your reference point moving forward. It also works as a marker system. When you see certain metrics dropping below the baseline, it may be a sign that you're neglecting key health habits or that you're pushing too hard in other areas and creating an imbalance between your health, your habits, and your output. Now that we've got that tracking set up and running, now we want to have a look at what we're actually going to assess. We start with your engine, your heart. There are three key numbers that give you a real-time picture of your cardiovascular health, your recovery, and your resilience around stress. So resting heart rate, this is your body's idle speed. The lower, the more efficient, the better. Healthy range is from 50 to 65 beats per minute. If it's consistently over 75 long term, well then it puts you more at risk. So you want to check it out in the morning and be able to monitor those trends during the week. And VO2 max is how your body uses oxygen. Think of it as horsepower. The higher, the more energy your body can produce. So a higher VO2 max is one of the strongest predictors of longevity. And then we have heart rate variability, which is a nervous system metric, not just a heart metric. It reflects how well your system can shift between stress and recovery. A well-regulated system has variation in the heartbeat, fast, slow, or adapting. So when you're under stress or carrying fatigue, that variability drops. and the system becomes more rigid. So low heart rate variability is a signal that you are operating in survival mode, not performance mode. So heart rate variability is one of my favorite markers because it tells me how well my nervous system is able to move between high stress states and recovery. So track these three, they give you the clear picture of how your system is actually functioning. So the best option to track all of these is a polar heart rate monitor. And I find it to be the most efficient and effective for heart rate monitoring early in the morning and while I'm doing my zone 2 cardio. So now let's get into the fun stuff, that physical fitness and testing. The fitness assessments are about how your body performs under load. These aren't just fitness tests, they're longevity markers. Strength, this is your insurance policy. Without it, muscles decline, bones weaken, and that metabolism slows and injury risk sort of increases. And grip strength is one of the strongest predictors of longevity. If your grip is weak, it's often a sign that the rest of your system is too. And then we move into endurance, which is your ability to sustain effort over long periods of time. Simple tests like push-ups, plank holds, or VO2 walking test or running test is about your capacity. So mobility and flexibility is another, which determines how well your body moves through range. If you've got tight hips, restricted shoulders, and poor movement patterns, all show up here. And if you've spent years sitting, your body has actually adapted to that. Tight hip flexors equals weak glutes, rounded posture, and that impacts on how you breathe and how you perform. Then we have stability and balance. This is your control system. It's how well your body holds position and adapts under movement. A simple single leg balance test tells you a lot about your coordination, risk, injury risk, and your nervous system communication. So these assessments aren't just about being elite, they're about understanding how well your body is built for long-term performance and how well it's aging and where you need to put that attention. So when you're doing those physical assessments, put the ego at the door. It's not about doing it fast or being the strongest or being the best. It usually leads to dysfunction, injury, and inconsistent results. So when you're doing these assessments, be strict on yourself. Keep the form and the technique clean as a way to challenge your own values, not just trying to beat the next guy. All right, so now we're looking at blood markers, your internal scoreboard. Here, it's about the inside. Your bloods give you the real data on how your body is functioning beneath the surface. Think of it as your internal dashboard, your early warning system. So key markers to track are glucose and insulin sensitivity. This tells you how well your body is managing energy and switching between fuel sources. Poor control leads to fatigue, fat gain, and metabolic issues. Then we have cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. These reflect heart health and long-term cardiovascular risk. Then we have inflammation, your CRP, which is chronic inflammation, and how easy the body can switch off. So over time, it creates wear and tear and accelerates aging and makes the system slow down. And then we have hormones, testosterone, cortisol, and estrogen. So these regulate energy, recovery, stress, metabolism, and mood. So when they're out of balance, everything feels harder. Performance drops, recovery slows, and fatigue starts to build. And then we have nutrients like vitamin D and magnesium. These underpin recovery, sleep quality, immune function, and resilience. If these are low, well, you're running your system on empty. So think of your nutrients as your oil and grease for your Formula One car. These aren't just numbers, they're signals. They tell you exactly where your system needs attention and where to focus. So once you have all that data, you can start integrating it into what it actually means. This is where most people get it wrong. They collect the data but don't use it. So your metrics are feedback. It's like a dashboard in your car. They tell you what's working and what's not. So high glucose, your body isn't processing fuel efficiency. Low heart rate variability, your system is under stress and needs recovery. If you've got high cortisol, you're running too hot for too long. And then if you have low strength or endurance, well then you're losing resilience and your capacity. So these markers aren't problems, they direct you. They help take you to the changes that you need to make. Now once we have all that information, we can bring it together. Now instead of trying to fix everything at once, we focus on one or two key areas at once. Look at your numbers and identify your weakest link. Low heart rate variability or a high heart rate, we'll work on those. If your strength is weak, we'll then work on your resistance and build muscle. If you're unstable glucose, we'll clean up your nutrition, increase movement and stabilize your energy. So pick one focus and build it slowly to help you stay on point. Remember, this isn't about a race. It's about not doing it all at once. It's about building that foundation first so you can increase your stress capacity in the future. And that's when we start stacking those small wins. And this is where the weekly health page comes in, that weekly game plan. Each week you track your key metrics, you review your progress, you adjust your approach. You're not chasing perfectionism, you're building consistency and trust in your system. So small targeted changes over time create massive results. This is where we start thinking about the long game. So this program isn't about short-term fixes. That's why so many people fall off. They chase quick results and never build true capacity. So when you break it down into these small things, better VO2 max means stronger heart and more energy. A higher heart rate variability means more in control of your stress and recovery. Balanced hormones mean better recovery, drive, and long-term vitality. So strength, mobility, and that stability means that you're capable, more resilient, and you're able to age well. So your final actions for week 1 are measure your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate, your VO2 max, your fitness assessments, review or book a blood work, and choose one of those metrics to focus on. Track it, improve it, own it.